All right. Good morning. How you doing? It's good afternoon someplace, good morning someplace, and good night or good evening someplace else. But no matter where you are, my friends, we all get together every Sunday at 9 a.m. So let me welcome you to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. I'm joined with my co-host, Miss Larness Kinsey. Oh, the natural lovebirds, Christopher and Gilda, they were meant to be together. I'm going to tell you, you meet her, you look in your eyes, whatever. He proposed to her, and look at it. 70 years later, they're still together, still acting young and having fun. And let me tell you, if you don't know what to do today, all right, I want you to pay attention, stay tuned, because we'll listen to see what Dr. Breakthrough is bringing for you. And if you ever had someone that goes to bat for you, we got Curtis Battles up there bringing up. He says so many things. The frontal lobe of his brain is working overtime every time he shows up on this show. And when a lady tells you her last name is Blue, ain't nothing but sunshine, Doc. Mrs. Blue, welcome to the show. And this show would not be complete without the voice, Otis Spencer. Hi, my name is Kevin McLemore. And like I said, I had 300 motivational quotes I had created for the contents of my book. And I was always curious when I sat down with Stan, Larnez, and everyone else, is how these quotes landed on from one person to another. Were they just a conversation to be had? Or were there words that just lie there on a piece of paper? Well, we're going to find out today because Mrs. Blue, she's bringing a quote for you. So, Otis, I'm not going to hold up the show anymore. Deliver the quote for our guests that are tuning in today. What's the quote for today, Otis?
Rising, everyone. Happy Sunday. Today's quote: everything you want is on the other side of fear.
All right. We're going to find out what's on the other side of the consciousness of your brain. Mrs. Blue, all right? How's this quote? You brought the quote to us, so somehow this quote has been part of your life. You want to share with us? How's this quote land on you?
Sure. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Everything you want is on the other side of fear, right? It's one way to read the quote, but the quote has an exclamation point behind it, right? And we all know that those exclamation points mean something. So we can say everything you want is on the other side of fear, or we can say everything you want is on the other side of fear. That's how I read that quote. I actually stumbled onto that quote at a time where I was just lost, right? I can only speak for myself. Maybe nobody's ever been lost before, but I was lost at a time in my life, and I just kept saying, how I can't move forward. I can't, that spiritual paralysis that sometimes comes on, right? When we know who we are, when I know who I am and I know who I belong to, right? But sometimes there's a connection that's missing, right? And we hear words like faith, and we hear words like, just, be consistent in what it is that you're doing, and that's fine. That's fine. But when you're stuck, and I always talk about the quicksand. When you're in quicksand, and if you're familiar with what quicksand is when you're stuck and there's no way that you can get out. And every time you get ready to move, you shrink down one step further, right? And the only way to get out of quicksand is help. Something or someone has got to be on the outside of that perimeter that's willing to reach out, reach back, and say, do you need some help? At that point, we have a choice, right? We can say that we want help, or we can stay in that I can do everything by myself. I'm a self-made person and I don't need help. And that's great. But every time you move, you'll just go down like an inch more, right? But when we reach out for help, right? When we reach out for help, reach out a hand, somebody may be extending a branch to us and we can take a hold of it. And that's how we begin to get out of that, right? That's where I was at that point in my life. That's where I was. But then when I came out, I just began looking around and seeing, first, I compare. I see everything that everyone else has and what I don't have. right? Oh man, why do they make that kind of money? Why do they have those kind of jobs? Why are they getting the opportunities? Why are they driving that kind of car? Why are they living in that kind of house? And now I just want to compare. I just want to compare. Comparison is never good for me. I can't, like I said, I will only speak for myself. If somehow you got hit by the shot that I fired, then that's on you, right? But just looking back and saying, I don't understand, like what is this my lot in life? Like is this my life for the rest of my life? But there would always be a little voice in the back of my head that says, come on, you know what you want. You know what you want. Oh my God, I do know what I want, but I don't really want to, I don't want to focus on that because that takes work. That takes more work than I have, more time than I have. And there's always these excuses, right? But the wanting is always there. Coupled with, right? Because I don't, once again, I'll just go back to me. I am now connected to God in such a spiritual way that I communicate every single day, every single day. And what he's began to bless me with is seeing what's on the other side of all that fear that I have. And I remember when I first started seeing it, it was scary. Because I'd say, there's no way I can't live there. Like I can't drive there. I can't hang out with those people. What am I going to say? But everything that I want is on the other side of that fear. There's got to be a way that I can get to the other side without having the fear. Why? Why can't I just have that stuff? God, why can't you just, ta-da, just give that stuff to me? No. Because see, if that happens, I wouldn't appreciate it. I wouldn't know the value of it. But I know the value of my sweat. I know the value of my tears. And when I get that, whatever that is on the other side of fear, when I get that, I appreciate it. I hold on to it. I cherish because I know the working effort that it took in order for me to get that. So there have been a lot of things on the other side of fear. And I've accomplished a lot of those things that have been on the other side. But I have to have the willingness to do it. Look, life is not like the Aladdin genie. We can't just call upon things and say, Kevin didn't call upon it and say, you know what, Almighty Genie, I want to be Kevin and Friends, and I want to write a book, and like those things didn't happen just like that. We had to sit down with ourselves, with our belief system, and we had to become willing to do those things. That's the work. Understanding that everything that's on the other side of my fear, it's mine. I don't have to tell anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to wake up one day and ta-da, I'm going to be famous. Well, it doesn't work like that, right? We have to surround ourselves with a network of people that we could take our cape off with, right? Taking our cape off, letting them behind the veil, however you choose to say that. But what we represent when we're out in public is fine. We represent who we are. I represent editor-in-chief of a magazine. That's who I represent. And when I meet people, that's who they see. But man, those long hours, meeting those deadlines, that's the sweat and tears. But sometimes I can't be there just by myself. So I need to take off my veil sometimes, and I need to let other people come inside and see what Stephanie looks like. This is what Stephanie looks like. Some people are shocked. I've let people behind my veil before, and when you're a strong-minded person and you're the go-to person that everybody goes to, and you try to just push your veil over just a little bit, and they begin to see, they get scared. Oh, no, you're going to be okay. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to respond to that. So I just slide the veil back over. That's not the person. That's not the person. I'm not going to shout her out, but I met Lornez, and we both pulled back that veils. Look, this is where we are, and it was such a wonderful experience, to be able to sit back and I'm going to say kick my shoes off and lay back spiritually, right? And be able to share some of my thoughts without thinking, because there have been times in my life that, I've shared some of those things that's on the other side of fear, and people picked up and ran with it. And I said, but that was mine. How did you get to pick up and run with what was mine? Okay. They got that one. How does the saying go? You fool me once, you fool me twice, there won't be a twice, because there'll never be an opportunity for that, So I've learned that all of those things that I say in my mind that I want to do, and all of those, what some of us call projects, I don't call them projects, I just call them things that I'm supposed to be doing, ways of my service, right? Because I make sure that everything that I do, I'm serving, right? I'm serving. I'm helping someone in some kind of way, some shape or fashion. Because see, my goal is to be the best version of Miss Blue that I can possibly be. Look, come along for the ride. Come along for the ride. And that's where I am now, because it's enough for everybody. I don't have to hold on to things anymore. There is enough for everybody. If you got a thought, you got an idea, that's fine. I remember a time when I was working on websites, and people were like, oh, well, I'm working on websites too. And they didn't want to collaborate, and they didn't want to have conversations, and because I'm working on look, but your website is not my website. We don't design things the same way. But they couldn't see past that. And I'm saying it's enough for everybody. So when I started getting clients that were coming in that wanted a particular type of website, and that wasn't my forte, look, call so-and-so up. Because it's enough for everybody. I don't have to worry about Lornez taking anything that belongs to me. Dr. Breakthrough knows because that it's already mine. Anything that's for me is already mine. I had this vision one time of being on this huge stage, right? It must have been thousands of people in the audience. And I was walking from one side of the stage to the other, and I had a mic on. And I don't even know what I was saying. I couldn't hear myself, but I just had the vision of me doing that. The vision was so real that I could feel my heels as I was walking across the stage. And I just kept saying, what is that? What's that about? Got closer and closer to reality. Closer and closer to reality. At the end of August, I was asked to come out and do a women's empowerment. And I said to myself, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But I've said that so many times during the course of my life. Maybe that's the one that I had the vision for. And I've had so many speaking opportunities and so many empowerment opportunities, but I knew instantly that was not the time, that was not the one. But it's coming. The great thing about it is I'm no longer fearful. That fear is not there anymore. When you can see it and see what's on the other side, and then also be able to acknowledge those boogies that come out in the night, that get up in your head and say, oh, no. Man, we begin to talk back to them. I don't know how many affirmations Kevin said he had in his book. I think it was over 300. He's good for the year. Every day he can get up and he can use one of those affirmations and just let that be his daily affirmation for the day, right? Send that out. Put that in the group chat. Just one of those affirmations every day. and it'll help people. And sometimes we don't believe that what we do helps people. The little things, we may think that it's so minute and people are not going to understand, but we never know who's thirsty for what it is that we have. So when I heard that quote, everything I want is on the other side of fear, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, that's it. That's it right there. So I challenge everyone who's listening to this podcast, everybody who's on this line with me right now, get that. Get it in your system. I know that God is bigger than everything. So whatever it is that I think I'm afraid of, or whoever I think I'm afraid of, because sometimes it's not a what, it's a who. I stand down. I know who I am. I know whose I am. Thank you so much, Kevin, for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all you listeners. I don't know how much time I have, but I've been looking at the clock and waiting for a signal.
Hey, let me tell you like this. When I started this podcast, everyone told me that it had to be this time and that time, whatever. And I said, anytime that I sit there, just like going to a concert. The average record is about three minutes long. When I heard Earth, Wind, and Fire sing a song for 11 minutes, I did not time them. I enjoyed the show. And so it's just like I am going to say to you, the over 300 affirmations that I have or motivational quotes, depends on how you want to choose it and put my words. I know how powerful words are. So I'm going to attach this to the conversation you had. What I've learned in life, there's no virtue without the presence of sweat. And we had this conversation long before we even got on the show and hit record, is that we all know in order to be a real friend, all right, you've got to be brave enough to ask for help. All right. There's no such thing as a self-made anything. All right. And if anyone is ever self-made, they're self-destructive. All right. So we're going to find out how Brother Curtis Battle, interprets this quote. Everything you ever wanted, Curtis, is on the other side of fear, my brother. How's this quote land on you?
Good morning. Happy Sunday to all. It is really unfair that I'm after Mrs. Blue because there's very few things that I can say after she has given us such a message. But nonetheless, the other side of fear, this quote came up to me and I thought of the Grand Canyon. And that's why you see the picture behind me. There's this huge chasm, and you think that you have to either fly across it in a plane or a helicopter, or you have to go all the way down into the valley and find your way through it. But you're going to come out the other side. You can go around it. You can have somebody, there's observation decks now where you can see it, but it's such an amazing view. I took my daughter there, 5 years ago. And it just is breathtaking. And it shows how much of the world there is. What are the miracles that happen that God has created? And you take that and say, if this can happen and it took however many eons of time for it to occur, I can certainly get over the fear of taking that next step out. Well, I'm not going to step out and fall down into the canyon. No, that is not what my plan is. But one of the things that this has led to is I created a vision board. My wife and I went to an event. We both created our vision board. So I have mine that sits right here as I'm on camera with you. And it says things like, I effortlessly attract success. I find and comfort in traveling. I naturally attract good fortune, positive feelings always. But it's all those things that are those positive affirmations that get you beyond whatever the fear is that you might be feeling. And that fear could be as simple as, I don't want to pick up the phone and call that person I don't know. Or it's, man, I've been working at this thing for 5 years. And yeah, I know we keep moving and we keep putting money into it, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And there's going to be incredible blessings on the other side of it. You just have to believe. And I think one of the things you find as an entrepreneur is that you always have to have a positive mindset. You have to get those demons out of your head because You can't get up and go out and be willing to help yourself and help other people on their pathways if you can't get it out of your own head. And I think that the folks that are here on the show, and Dr. Breakthrough and I have been going back and forth. He's been sending me some motivational things. He said, Kirk, he hasn't said it this way, but says, get your butt up and get going, brother. This is the next thing you need to get over it. And I think of, there was a movie a while back. I don't know how many have seen it. It was called Hidalgo. And it's about this horse race through the desert. And, there's a point where the hero's about to give up. And it was right as he was getting in sight of what the blessing was. And he didn't, and he made it all the way to the end. And he won that competition. That was this amazing thing. There were all kinds of pitfalls. There are all kinds of tragedies and traumas along the way. And that's what life is. But we find those people who help us get beyond the when we run into and we're stuck, as you talked about being stuck in the quicksand. There are times we're stuck and we just cannot feel how we get to the next stage, but there's somebody out there who knows what we need and that we've encountered at some point, and there's this mysterious suddenly you get a call or you get a something that pings you and you say, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm actually looking at it the wrong way. It's not nearly as difficult as I was imagining it could be. And that could be something simple like, I need to finish the spreadsheet. I don't need to touch the spreadsheet. I need to talk to this other person that I was connected to. We're trying to figure out each and every day how we take that one step forward that will bring us to the blessings that are for us and for all those around us. So that is how this quote has landed on me.
I'm going to tell you, Mr. Battles, all right? Your name speaks for itself. You're talking about, following Mrs. Blue. You held your own, man. You held your own. The hard part is, Gilda following you. I mean, if you look on this stage, I had to make a decision. Go for Dr. Stephanie or go to Dr. Stan or go to Larnez or go to Gilda or go to you. You held your own, man. You held your own. And like I said, when you talk about, standing on the other side of fear, what you're standing on is what's in your heart. All right. And when you open your mouth, you speak from your heart. God is giving you the gift in order for you to be present every single day. Like I said, there's no virtue without the presence of sweat. My grandfather always said he didn't mind giving you a hand, but he wasn't going to haul you around for the rest of your life. Okay? It is up to you. And you did your thing, my man. You did your thing. Now, this is the hard part, is Stan following Gilda. Now, we're going to see what's going to happen when Gilda gives us her interpretation. But before we do that, I want to turn the mic back over to our voice of the show. Oh, I love this man. He is so much. And I'm going to tell you, for those of you, I saw a picture of this brother in a clip from a movie. He was standing in the same scene with some lady by the name of Meryl Streep. You're talking about someone being fearful, and he was a judge, and he pulled it off well. Otis Spencer, the voice of our show. Aren't we so lucky to be in the presence of greatness from we look from left to right, look up and down, and we're standing with all these kings and queens? This is like showing up at a concert. You only got one hit single, and they tell you you're going to sing in front of a room of 60,000 people, and they look out in the audience, and Prince is sitting there. And they asked Prince to come up and perform, and you says, well, I only got one song. Prince has got a whole history. And then before you know it, Elton John says, well, let me play the piano for Prince. And he's sitting there, all right? And then the rebirth of Michael Jackson shows up. And then after all this is going on, you got 30,000 people standing on their feet, and then you show up with one song. You're talking about standing on the other side of fear. All I'm going to do is sing today. So, Gilda, how does this, wait a minute, let me back up. Otis, you want to go ahead and deliver this quote? I can talk all day long. Stephanie, you got nothing on it. Wait till you get to Dr. Breakthrough.
Hit me right and go.
There you go.
Here's the quote again. Everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Hey, Otis, before we go to Gilda, quick question. Standing on the other side of Meryl Streep, did you have trouble remember your lines when you're looking over, someone so great, and all of a sudden you're standing on the same stage, same stage. I mean, the only
Oh,
thing
man.
that made
Meryl Streep wasn't the problem. I had 30 minutes to try to learn a whole oath to swear someone in. So I was more focused on me than Meryl Streep.
well, congratulations, my brother.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Gilda, how does this quote land on you?
Recognizing everyone. Let's see, this quote landed on me. Fear blocks your path to success. Look past fear.
All right.
Look past fear.
So few words, so loudly spoken. All right, that's a shot across the bow. Beware, beware, beware. So, Doctor Breakthrough. All right, you have about 200 different modifications or acronyms for fear. All right, we don't have to do all 200, but I know you're geared up. All right, how does the quote land on you?
All righty. Well, again, everything we want is on the other side of fear. So yes, I say there's a hurtful fear and there's a helpful fear. And the hurtful fear is the fear that captures you. The helpful fear is the fear that'll catapult you. So never told this story publicly before. When I was a young guy in the martial arts, there was a young lady that I had a super crush on. It was like my first crush ever. And I would do my hand wrong just so she was the teacher. So she would come over and correct my hand. And when she would touch my hand, I'd go, And, but I was always afraid to say anything to her. And I'll never forget one day I was over her house and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shoot my shot, right? And so one of the best guys in the class is a guy named Alvin Cook. And I said, Sharon, if Alvin were to ask you on the date, now again, I didn't have a car at the time. Alvin had a car. Alvin had this big old fro back then, no, bush, not fro, but bush, right? And he had bigger muscles than me and he was older and, and all that. And so I said, if Alvin Cook asked you on the date, would you go out with him? And she said, oh, no, I wouldn't. Well, I took that as, if Alvin doesn't have a chance, I don't have a chance. So I never said anything. 45 years later, I'm talking to her best friend, and she says, what I don't want to understand is how is it you and Sharon never got together? Y'all were both crazy about each other. I'm like, what are you talking about? So yeah, Sharon was crazy about you. I'm like, Sharon Tatum? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, you're not going to believe this. And so that hurtful fear, right, that I misjudged, and it kept me from asking. So when I met my now wife, Nadia, man, listen, matter of fact, as soon as I met her and liked her, my ABCD, my adorable brown caramel delight, 5 months later, I slapped a ring on that bad boy. I'm like, I'm taking her off the market. So instead of letting fear hurt me, I'm gonna let it help me. I'm gonna let it catapult me to get an extra action. And so fear oftentimes stands for forgetting everything's all right. Fear, F-E-A-R, forgetting everything's all right. The greatest book ever written says in Proverbs 10:24, the fear of the wicked, it shall come upon him, but the desire or the faith of the righteous shall be granted. So oftentimes fear and faith, although both are invisible, they can act like a magnet and attract us. And so fear oftentimes will attract us to the thing we're afraid of. Faith will often attract us to the thing that we have faith in. And so many people, my friend, so many people lose sight on what they want now because of the fear of what they see now, and they never get what they really want. So another acronym for fear is simply former experiences affecting reality. Because sometimes we did something and it's like, and so now those former experiences, it affects our now reality. We don't know, but if we did it again this time, it would be a different turnout. And then fear also is false expectation affecting reality. The greatest book ever written, 1 Timothy 1:7, God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And so again, don't allow your fear to capture you. That's hurtful fear. Have the helpful kind of fear that allows it to catapult you. And so I have a healthy fear that my family won't be properly taken care of if I don't take proper care of myself and provide and do the things. And so sometimes it's out of a little bit of fear that I get up extra early in the morning and pray and get out there in my breakthrough walk or do my exercise and so forth, and discipline my eating habits to make sure I'm around and so forth, or as long as I'm here, that I can be as healthy and as strong as I possibly can. And so again, my friend, there's a healthy versus a hurtful fear. Allow the healthy fear to catapult you to do what you want to do and what you need to do before it's too late. God bless you.
God bless you. And I am so glad you put a ring on it, because there's a lady in your past is still sitting there listening to this with her hand like this, still empty. Stan, where are you? So where are you? You know, it's amazing. As you share that story, I'm sitting here thinking, I said, what if we did a panel one day? And just every last one of them, because I know we all have these stories, because one of the stories popped up, and we shared that one story of something that stood in front of us, that obstacle that we placed, no one else placed it in front of us, and that for some reason we did not overcome it or share that story. Maybe we'll do a Sunday motivation just on that shared experience. Each of us share that one experience and how we came about it, because a lot of times, you know, people that are going through things, they have a lot of questions, but they don't have the answer. And if they don't see other people with examples, we don't know where to step next. You think about it. All right. So, I mean, the hard part is, you know, having Chris follow Gilda, and then Chris follow Stan. I mean, yeah, you know something, Otis, I'm praying for you, brother. All right, because you got the baton coming on the third leg, and you're gonna drop it off to me. All right. I hope I get it right when it's my turn. Christopher, how's this quote land on you? And thank you, brother Stan, and your beautiful, lovely wife, Nadia. What's that acronym again?
For what? Nadia?
Your ABCD.
Oh, my adorable brown caramel delight or angelic blessed chocolate delicacy.
All right. We're going to order 2. All right. Christopher, how's the score land on you?
Grand Rising, everybody. And you know what, Kevin? My fear was that I would have to follow Larnez. I can handle following Dr. Breakthrough. That was my fear. But again, Grand Rising, everyone. I looked at this quote from the other way. I know that there's a great thing waiting for me out there, but I looked at fear, and I decided I'll approach this by dissecting fear. And I knew Dr. Breakthrough had several hundred different ways of dissecting fear. And in a way, I'm kind of glad I am following him. I came up with about 3 that he didn't use. And I'll contribute these to my time in the Navy. The first breakdown or acronym for fear was one that I learned in the Navy. And that is forget everything and run. And that's what it speaks to, you know, what fear does, what fear inspires you to do, what fear is telling you to do. You know, I don't care what training I had, you know what, it ain't here right now. Whatever they train me for ain't this, I'm out of here. And that particular feeling comes from 2 different directions. One was one that Dr. Breakthrough approached, and that is the false expectations appearing real. I think that's what
Yeah. Einstein said that.
Okay, well, here Dr. Breakthrough said it. And the other one that sort of correlates to that, instead of expectations, it's evidence. False evidence appearing real. Once you can break that down and recognize that those expectations and even the evidence that you're looking at that are going to come out and get you, if you can overcome that, okay, you can make yourself believe that no matter what that actually is, I can overcome because it's not really there. It's my perception being diluted or being misgiven. Those expectations, you know, don't necessarily have to be what is due to come. And what the result of that is, and this is one that I absolutely love, forever enduring, and always ready. I don't care what's coming, I'm going to handle it. I'm going to kick its butt. I'm going to put it where I need to put it so that I can succeed. So that's what the Navy's taught me about handling fear. But yeah, that forget everything and run. Oh yeah, that's without a doubt the strong group of three.
I'm going to adopt that one. Forget everything and run. It reminds me of my grandfather used to always tell me. He says, a good run is always better than a bad stand. My father didn't allow his boys to back down from anyone, and my grandfather kept telling me, he goes, one day you're going to meet another version of you, and it ain't going to be as pretty as the day that someone met another version of you when they were standing in front of you. And it took me almost 30 years before I realized that I had a lot more to lose than sitting there beating someone down, because people people that had less made other decisions that would have affected the outcome of my life. So I now walk away and turn the other cheek. The only time I can't turn another cheek is someone's pounding of someone else's cheek. I got to stand up and be the man that my father put me up to be. So, Dr. Breakthrough, your acronyms, your analogies for that, Christopher, I'm going to practice that one from you. Now, the hard part, all right, and I know Otis is thinking the same thing. We got to follow Larnez, and I will tell you the most honest thing that I ever did was to tell a woman that this was my shortcoming. When I told Larnez, when I go out in public, I said I'm an extrovert when I do my thing, but I'm an introvert when I go out in public. Larnez says, I got you. And I let her take the lead. I mean, this is true. Am I right, Larnez?
Yes, indeed.
All right. I mean, I am, my little butt cheek shakes so bad when I get up on stage. You can hear it rattling. You put it to a beat, I'm the tambourine in there. But when Larnez is in the room, I feel safe. So Larnez, I'm going to ask Otis to give the quote for everyone listening in. And I am blessed to have all of you. And I will say this 100 times over. I am blessed to have all of you. Otis, give us a quote.
Everything you want is on the other side of fear.
All right, Larnez, we're winding up. I'm buckling up. It's all you.
Oh, blissful rising. And I got to talk about energy, because a lot of us don't understand what the energy is saying to your nervous system and how you should move with the knowledge of it, right? Fear is not the enemy. It is simple energy, an old familiar visitor that lives in the body to keep you alert, to remind you to move with care, right? But hear me clearly. Fear is an energy you live with, not an energy you lead with. You can acknowledge its presence without giving it authority. You can feel it rise in your chest and still take the step. The life you are praying for, love, peace, purpose, abundance, is not waiting for you to stop feeling fear. It is waiting for you to walk anyway. Every time you move forward, despite the shaking, you heal a piece of yourself, and you heal the piece of your lineage. Because the truth is, you are no longer that child who had to stay small to survive. You are no longer the ancestor who had to dim to stay safe. You're protected, you're covered, and your destiny is too important to let fear drive. So yes, let fear ride in the back seat if you must, but you hold the wheel. You lead with faith, with purpose, with light, and everything you want will be on the other side. And that's how this hit me.
All right. Thank you for landing the plane so smoothly. Otis, you're going to guide us into the terminal and give us a quote one more time. Otis, beautiful black brother, beautiful man. All right. How's this quote land on you?
Well, Again, the quote is, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And every day you have to face your fears and you have to stand up to them. One of the things that I did years ago, I'm petrified of heights and that fear of falling. And one day I had a friend says, why don't you come with me skydiving? I opened up my Bible that night, read a psalm, went with him the next day, went to the training for a few hours of how to jump out of the plane, how to sit in the plane, what will happen if your chute didn't open. Got up in that plane, it was my turn. Walked out under that wing and let go. I had to face my fears. We have to do interviews, auditions, meeting new friends and partners. But yet, that is a fear, and you overcome them every day. Don't let anything hold you back.
All right. All right. Hey, Otis, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
What in that manual you were reading, when it says if your parachute doesn't open, what does it say?
It says that as you're going down, you have a spare parachute to pull that string. If that doesn't open, kiss your rear end goodbye.
I was gonna say, if it had for me, if it had a line in here, if your parachute don't open, I'd have still been on the ground. I wouldn't have read on. That is all right. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you enjoy this show. I mean, as you know, when we get to Otis and myself, we're winding down, preparing for next week's show. This was such a great quote, Miss Blue. It was a great quote, and it's amazing. It amazes me every single time how one simple quote is interpreted or perceived so many different ways, and how one quote lands on a person. Every day, this quote could be a different experience. I know for me, when I think about everything that you ever wanted is on the other side of the fear, I always ask myself, what do you think? Or what do you do? You know, many times we don't think and we don't do anything. And you ask yourself, why? Is it the things that we dream about, we wish for, the things that we desire in life, the things we want to do, or the things that we're going to do? Many times, the answers to all those questions are blocked by you. We are always stopping us, me, be it a goal, be it an achievement, be it a personal experience. You know how hard it is to walk across the room and look at Madame Blue, Larnez, and Gilda standing there talking and says, I think I want to dance with one of them. And we take that long walk across the room, and Curtis and Christopher is standing there. Otis is cracking up and says, watch Matt get shot down. Watch it. All right. And you walk over and you say, oh, Miss Stephanie, this is one of my favorite songs, but it doesn't sound like that. Okay. It sounds like, hey, Steph, want to dance? All right. And you go, no, I'm just going to hang out with Larnez and Gilda. And you walk back over, and Dr. Breakthrough is going to pray for you as you get back, because you're all broken and everything else. But these are the things that constantly happen in our life. We're afraid to take that step. Now ask yourself, why does God give you a head? Why does he give you 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 feet, 10 toes, 10 fingers, a heart? Well, I will tell you, motivation starts on the moment you open your eyes. Is what you do afterwards. It defines your purpose. Every single thing you touch is a dream. When you clasp it on the other hand, it's consistent with your purpose. You start to pull it in. And every time you take one step, you take another step, and whatever, it defines your purpose. But what makes everything all come true is the way that you think. That's being an optimist. And what's in your heart is your faith. It means that God's got you. All right? And if you stand on that part of your truth, you have nothing to fear. You have absolutely nothing to fear. I mean, I know if I tell my personal story, I always say when people talk about fear, it's when you face a tank. At 165 pounds, my high school coach told me go knock a young man by the name of Tank on his butt. And I turned around and I said, Coach, that's Tank. He said, if you still want to wear that uniform, you'll knock Tank on his butt, and you have a choice. So when you talk about life and the things that you desire most, it's like you take a chance and you make a choice either to do it or whatever. So I got back up and lined up, and it was the longest cadence of a count that you ever heard. And I can't believe it, 165 pounds. I knocked a guy down on his butt that was 300 pounds and about 6 inches taller than me. But one thing that I learned about approaching or attacking your fears, never turn your back on a man they call Tank. That boy lit me up. But after that, I feared no other human being. It's like Otis standing on top of a mountain. Curtis standing on top of a mountain and looking down and asking himself, what do I have fear? When you look at the Grand Canyon, you stand on top of one of those mountains, look at what God created. Nothing to fear. That's beauty. You know, when you look at an owner's manual and you're up in a plane 3,000 feet up in the air, you take one foot and you release the other foot, and all of a sudden you're gliding down. That's God's hand holding you, and he's going to land you safely. All right? All you got to do is remember to have your faith. All you got to do is remember you can't do it on your own. All right? There's no such thing as self-made anything. All right? Someone made it before. Look at the tires in your car. Goodyear didn't know Firestone. Michelin didn't know Ford. As a matter of fact, Brother Rufus over there is making his own set of tires. They didn't know him either, but he didn't stop making his tires. So to my listeners and to our listeners and our family and friends, you know, what you fear most is giving up on you. Face your fears. And so with that said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our show. All right. You know, if you like it, you can find us on YouTube. Go to RMK Productions and Network. Both of the podcasts are there. We meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is probably the only podcast out there that we invite our listeners to. So in the description is the link to the show. We show up 15 minutes before 9 and we start on time at 9. And you're welcome. Just bring some positive energy. Each week, someone brings in a quote, and we do a round robins, and we find out how it lands on you. And I just want to thank you. Like Christopher, since Naheem's not here, you know, you got the end of it. So my grandfather always said that when you get to a point in life that you're in a position to help someone, he said it's your duty to do so. As a matter of fact, Dr. Breakthrough, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think God was the first person that said that. It's your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one. And with that said, we do what?
Fade to black.
Make sure you come back.
All right. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show.